Okay, so like imagine this. 20 million people all at the same time watching India's biggest sporting event, the IPL.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Now, imagine trying to make sure that every single person, all 20 million, has a perfect streaming experience. No hiccups, no interruptions, nothing. That's the insane challenge JioCinema takes on.
It's mind-boggling. When you actually stop and think about the numbers, it's unbelievable.
Right. And today we're going behind the scenes with an engineer who makes this technological magic
Yeah,
happen.
someone who's seen it all. 6 IPLs.
6. Talk about pressure.
Oh, and a few Super Bowls thrown in there, too.
Wow.
And what's fascinating is they don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. This year's IPO, the smoothest one yet, they said. Fewer emergencies, fewer meltdowns, almost like a well-oiled machine.
Which means some serious prep work must be involved. This doesn't just magically happen.
No, this is months of planning and preparation. They kick things off with something called an audit review.
An audit review.
You know, and not like those boring external audits. This is the engineers themselves, like putting on their detective hats. They comb through their own systems.
Well, looking for
That breaking point. When things start to slow down, even just a little bit, not when the whole thing crashes and burns, but those first little cracks.
that it's about spotting those cracks before they become like earthquakes. Right?
Exactly. And they don't do this alone. JioCinema works with its partners, cloud providers, the CDNs. Everyone's going to be on the same page.
Because at this scale, even the tiniest hiccup could be a disaster for millions of viewers, right?
Absolutely. Imagine if your stream froze right as Dhoni was about to hit a 6.
Don't even get me started. Speaking of Dhoni, our engineer mentioned that he's basically a force of nature for internet traffic.
Oh, yeah.
They even have a nickname for it, the Dhoni Pike.
The Dhoni Pike. Love it. It's true, though. The moment he walks onto the field, bam, everyone wants to watch. And everyone means a massive, massive surge in traffic. Make or break for the system.
Intense. So they've got their partners prepped, they're ready for the Dhoni Pike. But how do they actually make sure that 20 million people can watch without a hitch?
Well, on the user-facing side, a lot of it comes down to what they call feature flags.
Feature flags. Okay. I need you to break that down for me.
Imagine you're, say, a ship captain, and you're caught in a sudden, massive storm. You might need to, like, temporarily disable non-essential functions just to keep the ship stable, right?
Prioritize survival.
Exactly. Feature flags are basically the same thing, but for an app. If a new feature is causing slowdowns, they can instantly switch it off without disrupting the core experience for everyone else.
So an emergency brake, but for your app.
Precisely. And to make sure those brakes are in tip-top shape, they simulate all kinds of disasters in a controlled environment. We're talking slow internet speeds, server crashes, you name it.
That's some next level preparedness.
They even have a system for prioritizing features if things really go south. It's about thinking. What's absolutely essential for people to have a decent streaming experience.
The video playback has to work, right?
Exactly. Their top priority, they call it P0.
Yeah.
Then there are the nice-to-haves, like real-time chat or recommendations. Those are P1 and P2. If they absolutely have to, they can temporarily disable the less critical stuff just to make sure the video keeps playing for everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. So they've got a handle on the user experience. They're ready for Dhoni time. But what about behind the scenes, the databases, the servers, all that stuff?
Ah, the databases, the unsung heroes, but also the ones that can crumble under pressure.
Crumble. You make it sound dramatic.
Well, imagine millions of people all refreshing at the same time to get the score or watch a replay. That's a lot of strain on a database.
And I'm guessing auto-scaling just isn't fast enough in that scenario.
You would think, right. But it takes time to kick in. And time is precious during a live event. By the time it kicks in, it might be too late.
So what do they do?
Pre-scaling. It's like planning a seating chart for a massive concert. You don't want to be caught scrambling for extra chairs when people show up.
Okay, I like that analogy. So they essentially overestimate how much they'll need just to be safe, to handle those unexpected spikes.
Exactly. They analyze everything, how different user actions impact the database.
So if Dhoni hits a 6, they can actually estimate how many people are going to refresh the app and be ready for it.
Exactly. The popularity of the match, time of day, user behavior. It's a complex calculation, but they've gotten really good at predicting those traffic surges.
But even with the best planning, things happen. What happens when those carefully made plans go out the window? When the database starts to sweat?
That's where panic modes come in.
Panic modes. That sounds a little ominous, doesn't it?
It's not as dramatic as it sounds. Think of it like pre-planned escape routes. just in case a critical system starts to have problems.
Okay, so give me an example. What does a panic mode look like in action?
Let's say, for whatever reason, live data from a match is unavailable. They can instantly switch to a static version of the app. Basically, they take snapshots of things like the list of matches, team information, all that. Even if the live data feed goes down, users can still see basic information. Most people wouldn't even realize anything was wrong.
A backup of the backup. That's incredible. They really have thought of everything. Speaking of backups, we haven't even talked about CDNs. You know, the things that actually get that video from the game to our phones.
Right, CDNs, content delivery networks.
Those are crucial.
They are like the invisible highways of
Yeah.
the internet, making sure that data gets to you quickly and smoothly.
And JioCinema doesn't just use one CDN, do they? I remember hearing something about using multiple providers. Why is that?
You're right, they do. It's all about redundancy. Think of it this way. If you're relying on a single highway and there's an accident, everything comes to a standstill.
Makes sense. Gotta have a backup plan. Spread the load. Avoid a digital traffic jam. But I bet managing all those CDNs, it must be incredibly complicated.
Oh, absolutely. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch. They have a whole system set up to monitor each CDN's performance.
Always watching, making sure everything's running smoothly. What kind of things are they looking out for?
They're monitoring things like latency, how long it takes for data to travel from the CDN to the user, as well as packet loss, which is basically when bits of data get lost, and that can affect video quality. And they're constantly adjusting their caching strategies.
Caching strategies, what are those?
Imagine you're watching a really popular movie on a streaming platform. Instead of having to download that entire movie from a server that's like who knows how far away, every time someone wants to watch it, the platform can store a copy of that movie on a CDN server that's physically closer to you. That's caching.
Okay, I get it. So the next time someone in my neighborhood wants to watch that same movie, boom, it can be delivered instantly because
Right.
it's already stored locally.
You got it. Caching helps reduce those annoying delays and buffering, making for a smoother viewing experience. And with live events like the IPL, where every second matters, those caching strategies, they're absolutely essential.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this fits together. The app itself, constantly being watched and tweaked. Then you have the databases working behind the scenes to handle all the user requests. And of course, the CDNs, the internet highways, making sure everyone gets the video stream. But what about all the other things that happen on the app, like the chat, those view counts that are always going up? How do they manage all that without everything crashing?
That's where things get really interesting. That's the world of asynchronous processing.
Asynchronous processing.
Huh.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that one. It sounds a little intimidating.
No worries. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Think of it like this. Imagine you're hosting a dinner party, right? And you're trying to do a million things at once, cooking, setting the table, making sure everyone has drinks.
Sounds about right. Controlled chaos is my specialty.
Exactly. Now imagine if you had to stop everything. Every single time a guest needed something. Someone needs a refill, everything else on hold. Someone needs an extra napkin, forget about it. Chaos.
I see where you're going with this.
Asynchronous processing is like having a really good friend help you out at that dinner party. They can handle those smaller tasks, the refills, the napkins, the small talk, while you focus on the main course, right? Make sure it's cooked to perfection.
I like that analogy. So in the case of JioCinema, they're prioritizing, making sure that the most important functions, like, I don't know, delivering that smooth video stream, take priority over something like updating a view count in real time.
Exactly. They actually use message queues. It's like a digital to-do list.
Yeah.
They store that less time-sensitive data and process it later when there's less strain on the system.
So when millions of people are glued to their screens, all they care about is that core viewing experience. And then when things calm down, they can catch up on those other tasks.
Precisely. It's like magic.
It's like really, really efficient magic. And speaking of magic, or maybe like a tech thriller, our engineer actually shared this incredible story about a near-miss outage during an IPL match. Ooh, a real-life tech thriller. Tell me everything.
So picture this. The match is in full swing, millions are watching, and suddenly reports start pouring in that some users can't access the app.
Oh no, I can only imagine the panic.
Right. But here's the thing. It wasn't everyone. It was only affecting users on this one specific internet provider.
That's so strange. Usually when an app is down, it's down for everyone.
Right. So they start investigating, checking their servers, their systems, everything. Everything seems fine on their end.
How was it?
Turns out DNS issue.
DNS, what is it, like those domain name things?
Yeah, basically the DNS servers for that specific internet provider weren't refreshing correctly.
So it's like you have the right address written on an envelope, but the mailman can't read it?
Exactly. The mail was the JioCinema app, and the mailman was the internet provider's DNS servers. They couldn't figure out where to deliver the app.
So what did they do? Did they have to call the internet company and, like, ask them to fix their servers?
Well, they did reach out, but these things take time, and the match was already happening. They needed a faster solution.
Talk about pressure. What did they do?
They pushed an update to the app.
An update in the middle of a match. That sounds incredibly risky.
It was a calculated risk, but they had to do something. This update had a clever workaround for that DNS problem.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat. What did the update do?
They added a fallback mechanism. It's like having a backup list of post offices, right?
Right.
If the app realized the main DNS server was down, it would automatically switch to a public DNS server. You know, like Google's.
So if the main post office was closed, they just redirect mail to a different branch.
Exactly. And get this, the update went out fast enough that it prevented a major outage. Most users had no idea anything was even happening.
Wow. Talk about thinking on your feet. They figured out the problem, came up with a fix, and got it out to millions of devices, all while a live match was happening. These engineers are like digital superheroes or something.
Right. And this is just one example of how a tiny detail, like a DNS server, can have a huge impact on a platform as big as this.
It really makes you appreciate all the things you don't see, all the invisible work that goes into making our online experiences, well, work.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we haven't even touched on a pretty important part of this whole operation. Ads.
Ah, yes. Ads, they're everywhere online.
For better or worse, right? And actually, we got a question from a listener about this. They want to know how JioCinema handles those ads during a live stream. Because let's be real, no one wants to miss a crucial moment because of a poorly timed ad break.
Absolutely. And it's a lot trickier than you might think. Imagine trying to insert a perfectly timed ad break for millions of people who are all watching different parts of the match on different devices, potentially with different internet
It
speeds.
sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It kind of is, but JioCinema has some clever ways to make it work. They actually have a whole team, like a dedicated team of people.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. So there are actual humans involved in this process.
Yeah, you can't automate everything, especially when it comes to something like ad breaks. You need a human touch.
So they're like, what? Expert ad timers, making sure those ads hit at just the right moment.
Exactly. They listen for those natural pauses in the commentary, those moments where an ad break wouldn't be too jarring.
Like conductors of an ad orchestra, finding the perfect moment for a crescendo, or in this case, a commercial break.
I like that. They find those ideal spots, and then it gets even more interesting because they have different techniques to actually get those ads in there.
Okay, so what are their options? How do they get those ads in without everyone screaming at their TVs?
The simplest way is what they call static ad insertion, right? It's like the old days of TV advertising. The same ad plays for everyone at a set time.
Right, but that's not very efficient. I mean, everyone expects personalized ads these days, right? Targeted to their interests.
Exactly. That's why they also use something called client-side ad insertion.
Client side. Does that mean the ads are like coming from my phone?
Kind of. Your phone actually talks to the ad server directly. It's like, hey, got any ads for me? And the ad server picks one based on like your browsing history, demographics, all that.
So like those personalized recommendations you get on shopping websites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right ad, right person, right time.
Okay, makes sense. But I'm guessing it's not that easy, right? There have to be some downsides.
You're right. One of the big challenges is that it depends on how good your internet connection is. Slow connection. The ad takes forever to load. And that means buffering, frustration, potentially missing something important in the match.
I've been there. And nothing more annoying than waiting for an ad to load when you just want to get back to what you were watching.
Exactly. And then there's ad blockers. People are pretty good at avoiding ads these days.
So what's the solution? What does JioCinema mainly use?
They've found a good balance with something called server-side ad insertion.
Server side. Is that like a super-powered ad server or something?
You could say that. It's kind of a mix of the other two methods. Instead of putting the ads directly in the video or just relying on your phone, they insert them on their end right before the stream gets to you.
So it's like having this dedicated ad inserting machine in their data center that just seamlessly weaves those ads into the stream at just the right moments.
Exactly. And it gives them way more control. They can really target those ads, measure how well they're working, even do those little ad pods you see before or after a video.
Right, those little bursts of commercials.
Yeah.
They've got those strategic timeouts covered. But with server side, they're not just like showing random ads, right? They can still personalize things.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even with server-side, they're using all that data about their users.
Wow, it's like they figured out how to make ads less annoying.
They're working on it, and it's always changing. But it's a good reminder, right? Behind all these systems and algorithms, it's still people making the decisions. People trying to find that sweet spot between a good user experience and, well, making money from ads.
Right. Got to keep the lights on somehow. But it's amazing how much thought goes into something as simple as showing an ad during a live stream. You really don't think about all the work that happens behind the scenes.
It's easy to take it for granted, right? We click a button, the video plays, but we don't really think about all the people who make that happen.
It's like those ships we were talking about, right? They look so graceful just gliding across the ocean, but underneath it's a whole other story. All those complex systems and people working together to make it happen.
Perfect analogy. And speaking of those talented people, our engineer did mention that JioCinema is always looking for new talent.
Really?
Yeah.
So for anyone out there up for a challenge who wants to work on something kind of groundbreaking,
Check out the link in the show notes. It's not every day you get to work on a product with this much impact.
totally. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Pre-scaling databases, those DNS failures, even ads.
And that's just scratching the surface. Building a platform that can stream these live events to literally millions of people, it's a huge accomplishment.
It really is. I'm kind of in awe of these engineers. They're like the unsung heroes of the internet, always figuring things out, making our online lives better.
Totally. And one thing that really stuck with me from our conversation was this engineer's passion for learning, always wanting to do things better.
It's not just about keeping things running. It's about pushing boundaries, trying new things.
Exactly. Always reaching for that next level. And that's something I think everyone can learn from, right? Doesn't matter what you do.
Absolutely. So as we wrap things up here, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think it's this. The next time you're watching a live stream, playing a game online, even just browsing a website, take a second to think about all the people working behind the scenes to make it happen. Because when you're dealing with this many users, everything changes. The problems are bigger, the solutions are more complex.
It's like the difference between baking a cake for your family and baking thousands of cakes for a whole city.
Exactly. The basics might be the same, but it's a whole different ballgame when you scale things up.
Next level baking, that's for sure. So yeah, think of those engineers the next time you open up your favorite streaming app.
And next time you see that spinning wheel, that buffering video, have a little patience. These folks are dealing with some serious challenges.
So yeah, a little understanding goes a long way. Who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire some of you to learn more about this world of tech.
Or maybe even join the ranks.
Now, wouldn't that be something? To be a part of that world, building the future of how we connect.
The possibilities are endless.
They really are. On that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. What other everyday things we take for granted, might have this level of effort behind them?
Think about it, and until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions. Never lose that curiosity.
It really makes you think about all the things we just, take for granted.
Right.
Streaming, gaming, all these massive operations just humming along behind the scenes. It's a whole hidden world.
And it's not just fun and games either. Every time you order a ride or food, even just checking your bank balance,
You're relying on these systems.
systems designed to handle tons of data, all in real time. It's incredible when you really think about it.
Like we're all connected by these invisible threads,
Constantly exchanging information at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And the craziest part, this is just the beginning.
It's always changing.
Exactly. What seems mind-blowing today will be whatever tomorrow.
Which is why we love doing these deep dives.
Yeah.
Peeling back the layers, giving people a look at this world that's usually hidden.
Because the more we understand how these things actually work, the more we can appreciate the people behind them, the ingenuity, the creativity.
The sheer brain power.
Right. It's pretty inspiring.
Definitely. And who knows, maybe this will spark something for some of our listeners.
Maybe there's a future tech genius listening right now.
Maybe so. And to them I say, go for it. The world needs more curious minds like yours.
Absolutely.
So until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep asking those questions.
And never underestimate the power of a good deep dive.
That's it for us. We'll catch you all in the next one.